So here we are, it's September 12th in the Southern Hemisphere today, guys. Ben Vidgen here, and I've just put on a link down below a couple of articles that I've done which are relating to the issue of um, terrorism, or specifically state terrorism, and the various things that I've written since the 1995. That's the year that I started writing as a freelance journalist. Up to the current day. I've also included my book there. It's a complete PDF. It's a free book, so you can download it as a PDF and knock your stuff out. If you want to put a little cover in the box, and that's always appreciated. But at the end of the day, the book's I'm happy with what I've achieved with it. So it's now I'm throwing it out to the universe, and it's there for people to do what they want with it. I've also got an article there from I did with Ian Wishart for his Investigate magazine, Pacific Jihad. And really, why I put all these things up together is that when I finished my degree in Christchurch, I did a BA, Bachelor of Arts, and I did a double major in political science and history. And every article I wrote when I was at university was basically on the subject of terrorism, including my third year dissertation on the history of terrorism for Western European Middle Eastern terrorism. And that was from basically the 1960s to the when I wrote it was in 1990, so it was about up to 1992. And of course, obviously, since then we've had events like 9/11 take place. Now, the Investigate article I write. Let's go back to the Gun City, and State Secrets. So I write State Secrets, and no, in fact, we will. We'll start off with a State of Terror when I wrote for Nexus magazine in 95, 96. I just completed my degree, and I'd done 6 years in the terror retardant forces, where we were doing all things like Norman exercise and Ivanhoe, basically counterinsurgency, counterterrorism exercises. And I did State of Terror, and basically that was really looking at the connection, the Islamic connections to neo-Nazi terrorism. There's actually a very, very strong historic connection, which I go into that article and talk about its ties to World War II, and of course after in State Secrets, I'm also writing about the threat of right-wing terrorism, or the fact that it's hasn't gone away, and that this is the thing that the authorities don't look at, and more often than not because they've got very close working relationships with those terrorist groups. They funded them in the Balkans and during the Iran-Contras in the 1980s, and today in the UK, which ties into people like Brenton Tarrant, who got his weapons from Gun City, who I mentioned in my book State Secrets, were helping out these networks that were actually arming right-wing terrorist groups. So none of this, the signs were all there. The people involved have harsh relationships with the government, and that's even New Zealand. It goes all the way up to March 15th, and even before March 15th. Don't forget the Rainbow Warrior, which was actually carried out by the French DGSE government. So state terrorism, the idea that governments can actually engage in terrorism or have a participating relationship, perhaps that's more accurate, is highly documented, and we shouldn't go around getting down on people who want to turn around and say, well, look, I'm questioning official narrative, because some of these organisations have some pretty shady history, and it's on both sides of the law enforcement. So I put those all in my links below, and I make allude to the Investigate article beforehand. And again, I mentioned that one because in that one we're talking about Operation Bajinko, and that was a plot to fly aeroplanes into explode them in the airlines in the United States with Islamic terrorists. Tied up a guy that tried to attack the World Trade Center, the use of Ramsey in '93. And we mentioned this, I think about the second, third paragraph, and that's like a year before September 11th. And so that's how close we are to actually. So when intelligence services say, oh, they had no idea, which is, again, what we see happen in Christchurch, it's simply a lie. They have the information, and more often than not, it turns out that people carried out the attacks are actually informants, and the intelligence agencies have done a thing where they've attempted to make themselves look good by putting almost creating an event with the idea they're going to capture terrorists in action. Then things bureaucratically go wrong, and it all blows back. But we never find this stuff out until decades afterwards. Nobody ever gets held accountable for it, and then somehow the media forgets about those events. For example, the Iran-Contras is a classic example of governments being caught with their hands in the cookie jar, involved in arms terrorism, financing terrorism, Osama bin Laden was the CIA's person in Afghanistan. So these are some of the things which I put my little link down there for you, and it's just another way of saying, well, 9/11's come around, and back then, I know lots of intelligent, educated people that do question the official narrative of 9/11. I think it's completely sane. Once you do any reading on this, if you're being honest and you're not simply just only streaking to the mainstream media, the same people told you that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That they were active participants in this lie that's continuing to this day. That was, back then, a lot of educated people that, and it was largely believed, written off as a left-wing conspiracy theory. So I find it quite funny today that it's now been targeted as people who believe in conspiracy theories are apparently a right wing. I think that's bullshit. I think there's plenty of left-wing critics out there that are actually saying, no, actually, you're the government. You are the right ones. Your financial policies are right wing. Your defence policies are right wing, and you're actively participating in these groups, which these videos and links are all I've put down there for you. So anyway, that's my little 9/11 contribution. I've actually done a whole series of videos today as well, but they're taking zillions of times to download, so I'm just going to give you this. And when those videos get round to it, I've done about a 2-hour video. We've broken it down into different phases of my life, which hopefully is if nothing else, entertaining. Cheers.